big deal. It's a big problem. You know, half the pop. Can you click on?
I need to start recording. Hold on.
You're recording it now?
Yep.
Okay, she's recording it now. Sorry, why don't you go ahead and do it? You know, half the population has one of these chronic diseases, and obviously this is a big challenge in, you know, the firefighters world. I get that, but just to give you context, you know, just big picture speaking, you know, 25% of the population has 2 or more of these chronic diseases, and as we continue to age, and then you think about put your firefighter hat on, you've got a tremendous amount of stress in the lifestyle that's there. This is what's coming down the road, unfortunately. You know, once you have a chronic disease, it's often irreversible and you live with the effects for the rest of your life. The good news and the bad news is that over 70% of these chronic diseases are lifestyle induced. You know, the profession that you have contributes from a stress standpoint, from an inflammation standpoint. I mean, there's a whole bunch of risks that are associated with the job that you do. And so that's why anytime, you know, we can help people making better food decisions, it can help minimize some of this stuff that you know, that are a result of your job. But think about it just for a second. You know, you've got life stressors, work stressors, you know, that whole chronic disease thing is always there. And now with COVID, it's exposed it even more. So that's why I just am so passionate about this. We got to figure out a way to support people and help ourselves in a more meaningful way. And this is another reason why I'm super passionate, is that for the firefighters have a 12-year shorter life expectancy than non-firefighters. Because my buddies that are firefighters and my uncle, that was one, statistically speaking, they're going to kick the bucket 12 years sooner than I normally would. That's whacked. So anything that we can do to change that, that's what I want to do. And I really believe it. If you want to have a better quality of life and live longer, you got to figure out how to do something right now. Okay, so the whole series is brought on through, you know, our smart nutrition philosophy, as I said. So the nutrition, sleep, hydration, physical activity. The first 3 ones are super important. Physical activity is important, but a lot of you get that, are doing it. And if you're not, in the next session in March, I hope that it will give you some reasons to want to do it. But that is important, but the first 3 are super critical. All right, let's get into the sleep piece, because this is a premium. And I know, like, especially for career firefighters, not getting that sleep just takes years off how you look, how you feel, your mental clarity. I'm gonna have some bullet points here, and then we're gonna get back into the kitchen. Okay, signs of poor sleep. I mean, put in the chat box, can you relate to this? Foggy brain, worsened vision, impaired driving, trouble remembering, feeling drowsy during the day. Who can relate to that? Put your courage in your fingertips. Put it in the chat box, folks. And if you're feeling good, if you're figuring out how to get sleep into your schedule, I want you to tell everybody how you're doing it. Okay. What else is an issue with, you know, like the effects that lack of sleep have on you? You probably have seen it. Can you please click on so I can keep using the thing? Thank you. If you get poor sleep, and I'll talk about this while I'm cooking, folks, but I want you to see this visually. When you get poor sleep, it affects your body weight. It affects your metabolism. Obviously, as you alluded to, it affects your brain function and your cardiovascular system. Yeah, and I appreciate you folks. I appreciate you folks, you know, just calling it like it is and being honest about it. And I expect you would be honest, but sometimes, you know, when we are addressed with things that we don't like or are personal, you know, we don't want to, sometimes we don't want to, you know, don't want to publicly acknowledge it. So I appreciate you doing that very much. Now, we know what the effects are and how we feel and what, you know, and the toll it can take, but how do you know when you are getting good rest? And it's pretty obvious. You got to think about it like this, you know, and most folks, by the way, most people need 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep. I was chronically sleep deprived for 20 years, so I had to get my act together on this. But you know you're getting good sleep when you wake up feeling refreshed in the morning and you're not tired during the day. Here's the problem, folks. A lot of people, and we've done a lot of work with police, and they have a different schedule than fire, but caffeine, whether you're a firefighter, a paramedic, EMS person, or a police officer, caffeine is a crutch. And even if you're not in the industry that you're in, you know, people use caffeine, and the problem is it takes you down, takes you on a downward spiral, and it just messes up the hormones that regulate your sleep, and it's a disaster. So we got to figure out how to cut caffeine and taking naps, getting more sleep, figuring out how to just make sleep a priority. You can accumulate a sleep debt. So I was sleep deprived, chronically sleep deprived for 20 plus years. My sleep debt was months. Okay, it took me a while to get caught up on that. The hours and the intensity of the sleep determine the quality. So it's really important that you get that. And what works for Al or Anthony or Brett or Brian or Gina may or may not be the same amount for me. Like my sweet spot's 7.5 hours between about 9:30 p.m. getting up around 5:30 a.m. And if I do it later, I'm a mess the next day. So you got to figure out your sleep pattern. You got to figure out what works for you. I say this knowing darn well that as a firefighter, it's not necessarily realistic to have it to be the way you want. That's ideal for your body. I get it, but we at least need to just call it like it is. Now let's call out things that work against you that you don't want to do, or let's just point out real quick things not to do if you want good sleep and some things to do, and then we're going to get back into the kitchen. I'll start cooking and we'll talk more about this. Make sure that if you want good quality sleep, you don't drink caffeine after lunch. Like, you need a 12-hour buffer, folks. Caffeine stays in your system that long, 12 hours, up to 12 hours. That's crazy. Drinking alcohol 3 hours before or 2 hours before you go to bed. Using screens, devices, laptops, phones. I had a phone as an alarm clock, and that was really that was a big problem for me because I would get distracted by my phone, and then the blue light for it would stimulate my brain and keep me awake longer. So you got to get screens out of your life at least an hour before bed. Eating big meals 2 hours before bed is a problem. Lying awake in bed is a problem because it's giving your body mixed signals, hitting the snooze button. Now, things that you do want to do, folks, have a consistent sleep schedule. Again, we already pointed out the elephant in the room because of work schedules. This may or may not happen, and probably more like not going to happen. But you can lower the temperature in your room. You can have a dark room. You can have a quiet room. So there are things you can do to at least do something for yourself. And speaking of something, why don't you focus on having the right kinds of foods that will support you? So you go ahead and flip. Oh, speaking before I flip out, I'm not going to flip out. Click out. Before we click out of here, back into the studio, I'm going to be preparing for you this super tasty one-pan chicken, beans, and greens dish. And I'm going to give you the recipe in the chat box if you don't have it already. Go ahead. Thank you. I know we're talking about sleep. We're focusing on how to get all sleep, and everyone talks about that. And you've had sleep doctors talk about it. And, they're obviously your schedule, depending on what your role is, you maybe have a day job and then you're on call. I mean, who knows? I get that. Now, the good news is, folks, at least you can work with food. So there are foods that can work for you. This is just an example, the one-pan chicken, beans, and greens dish that I'm going to be making. Recipe is in the chat box. Will you flip up the ingredients so they can see it as well? I'm going to walk through this recipe. I know how busy you guys and gals are, and that's why I wanted to give you a specially designed one-pan dish. This is a great, easy recipe to make. As you can see here, it incorporates chicken with any kind of beans you want. We got some pinto beans in there. We got some dark leafy greens, kale in that case, but you could use anything else you wanted. We have some onions. We have tomatoes, as I said, along with some garlic, a little salt and pepper, a little broth, and then some crushed red pepper. This is, one example of numerous foods you could have to incorporate, but I'm just trying to give you a real clear picture, a nice snapshot in time, and this recipe illustrates it has nice key components that will help you get good sleep. So let's get into this. Now, as I am talking and cooking, if you've got comments to make, if you want to ask questions, please do it. Jonna will relay them. I've got some folks that are making some comments. Here's the thing you got to first think about. Obviously, getting sleep is obviously priority because it'll help rejuvenate, recover, repair, replenish your cells, your organs, your tendons, your ligaments. It literally repairs and rejuvenates your body. Knowing that your schedule is the way it is, Well, may or may not always happen that way. So again, leaning hard on food is going to work for your advantage. Nourishing is different than eating, folks. So you can nourish, you can eat to live. A lot of people do that, okay? I've got really smart, savvy, educated friends that I'm in my mid-40s, and they're in their mid-40s, and they're on like 5 different medications because they think, well, it's just a natural progression that your body breaks down, and now they got to be on all these meds, and they're taking no consideration to what they're eating. So you can eat to live, or you can nourish to thrive. And when you nourish your body, you will perform, feel, and look your best. As it relates to helping you with yourself in the kitchen, or with yourself in sleep, you got to keep your blood sugar stable. We've talked about blood sugar, folks. Who remembers talking about blood sugar? And if you're not familiar with it, or if it's something that you don't, maybe you don't pay attention or need to pay attention or haven't paid attention, that's okay. I want you to think about a typical day for you. And I'm going to start cooking while I'm talking because I got a lot to share and I don't have a lot of time. When you think about a typical day, how many of you feel that you have consistent energy throughout the day, that your mental clarity is sharp, that your mood is stable? How many of you feel like that during the day? Let me know in the chat box. Scale of 1 to 4. 1, I'm a mess, and 4, I feel great, stable. Let us know in the chat box. And if you don't want to say that, not a problem, okay? We got a way to go. Appreciate you sharing that. 3s, we got 3s. Here's the deal, folks. When your blood sugar is stable, those things happen, as I just said. And when your blood sugar is stable, it will help the hormones that regulate your sleep continue to regulate your sleep efficiently and effectively. The downside of when your blood sugar is not stable, so if you're going up and down if it happens once in a while, no big deal. But if it happens every day and you're like this, and you're just hitting the caffeine to stay awake, sometimes it happens. I've had days, today was a tough day for me. I drank more black tea and green tea than I normally would. I'm a human being, okay? So, I got no ego in this. But the point is, if your blood sugar is up and down, that blood sugar, when you spike, it whacks out the hormones that regulate your sleep. It perpetuates cortisol in your system. And that cortisol that's constantly being perpetuated, if you're having the blood sugar spikes, increases inflammation in the body. And that's where that whole downward spiral thing comes into play. Especially if you're not able to get good restful sleep, because your body, when you get good restful sleep, your body will flush out the toxins, the plaque. It'll lower the cortisol levels, so you feel rejuvenated in the morning. But if that doesn't happen, well, we got a whole host of problems. So, all right, I needed to share that stuff with you. It's really important. I want to get back into kind of what I'm doing right here. I'm chopping up, as you just saw. I'm cutting up a bunch of chicken here. Protein, slow carbohydrates, and good healthy fats are going to help keep your blood sugar stable. And protein, whether it's animal or plant-based, is going to help you with your sleep because it'll help with that muscle recovery and repair phase. So I want to make sure that you are getting that, again, if the sleep is spotty, make sure that at least you're getting sufficient amount of protein in your system. That will be really important. I'm going to add a little olive oil to my pan. My pan should be nice and hot. And I'm going to just let it warm up a little bit more. And then I'm going to add my chicken. You want to start with the sizzle. So let's make sure we got some sizzle going. We got some sizzle going. That's good. Questions, comments, thoughts? Anything, any questions, comments, thoughts? I'm going to put this to the side. Grab a new board here.
Robert says naps are life. Naps?
Yeah, I get it. That's the way it is. So take advantage of it. Now, here's another thing. I mentioned, the caffeine back when we had the slide deck up, how caffeine can take you on that downward spiral as well. That excess caffeine obviously keeps you awake, but then it affects, again, this is all hormone related, folks. I used to think of hormones in a real simplistic fashion, and now I'm realizing that the hormones, they affect your weight, they affect your sleep, they affect your mood, they affect your digestion. So at least when you're getting those naps in, if you've got good nourishing foods happening for you, that can help you make the most out of those naps. I get that. Okay, back to the recipe, folks. We got the chicken going in the pan. I'm going to add some salt in here, and I'm going to chop up a little bit of garlic. I'm going to let this, one thing that's really nice about garlic is garlic has antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties so that it can really help your immune system. I'm going to give you a little bonus, little riffs here. When you get good quality sleep, your immune system is going to be stronger. But if you're in constant sleep deprivation, your immune system's compromised, and now you're going to be a liability for yourself to get sick. And in today's world, folks, we really don't want to get sick. We don't want to have that happen. So make sure, again, that you're getting the right kind of foods. Here we got some nice garlic here. If you want to use dehydrated garlic, granulated garlic, or garlic powder instead, that's totally fine. But I'm using fresh garlic here. A little tip, folks. I always try to give you the why and the how and the what. I want to give you, I try to, give you context and reason why you should give a rip about this, and then tell you what foods can help, and then show you how to do it. So hopefully I'm on track. I should be, at least. Questions, comments, thoughts?
We have questions in regards to oils. Thoughts on using coconut or avocado oil?
The nice thing, the question is about, what kind of oil to use, and olive oil has great nutritional benefits. However, unrefined, extra virgin, cold pressed olive oil has a low smoke point, and it's not really that good for cooking. And even if you use a regular olive oil, just a regular plain olive oil, and it won't say extra virgin and stuff like that. It'll just say olive oil. It has a little higher smoke point, and that's why I'm using it in here. But to your point, coconut oil, avocado oil have a much higher smoke point, and they still have really good quality nutritional benefits. So I would say, if you like the flavor and you're cool using those, definitely go for it. That's a great healthy oil alternative than using olive oil. Definitely recommend it. Thank you for asking that question. Please ask more questions, folks. Let us know what's your what's on your mind. If it's from a nutrition standpoint, something about snacks or a beverage. If it's a cooking thing, you let us know, and we are going to continue on. Another group of, you want to say something?
Canola oil? What about?
Okay, with the canola, I need to drink a little thing of water here real quick. Okay. I was talking my face off all day today. Then we had our cooking show, live streaming cooking show right beforehand, and my voice is a little strained. I apologize. So the question is what exactly?
Oh, just continuing on the oils. Is olive oil best or canola?
Canola oil is fine if it's an expeller pressed, meaning, or an organic canola oil. And the reason why that is because a lot of the commercially produced vegetable oils, and that includes canola oil, the way that they produce them, they're so highly refined that they just have zero nutritional benefits. And because when they're conventionally grown, especially seeds that are used for vegetable oils, they're heavily sprayed with pesticides. And so that's something that, some people more than others, and I'm one of these people, as is my youngest daughter, we have digestive issues, and we have eczema. I have eczema on my scalp. She gets eczema, breaks out, and rashes on her, like on her arms and stuff. And that's because of certain pesticides, herbicides, insecticides. And we don't eat a lot. I mean, we eat very, I guess we call us really clean eaters, and we don't have foods that have that. And when we do have it, it makes a significant impact. And so if your system is sensitive, if you have skin problems, digestive problems, or even suffer from headaches, you may want to look at, am I eating certain foods that are affecting me? And expeller pressed canola oil, that Spectrum is a brand that you can find Spectrum brand canola oils in most grocery stores. That is a great canola oil. Higher smoke point, neutral taste. It's great for baking, great for cooking, and it's a healthy oil. But there's a lot of garbage out there, folks, okay? We did a metro area survey on what kind of oil is good or bad, and about 70% 75% of the oils were considered good. So that's a positive. But having said that, 25% of the oils are junk, and a lot of people are buying it, and it's working against folks, affecting their metabolism, increasing inflammation in the body. You don't want to have that kind of stuff, affecting mental cognition. So you never thought I could talk about oil so much, right? But
one more.
One more. Bring it on, folks.
Grapeseed oil.
Grapeseed oil can be, as I understand, and I haven't cooked with it for a long time, but if I recall correctly, it's a higher smoke point. It can be a good cooking oil. Again, whenever you can go organic or expeller pressed, it's going to have more nutritional benefit. You're not going to get the bombardment of the pesticides, herbicides, and all that kind of stuff. Unrefined means it's not. How do you describe it? When you say refined, that means that they filter it out a lot of times to make it, to maybe take a smell out or to make it look more clear or lighten the color. So when it's unrefined, it's more in its natural state, and it also has more of the nutrients and stuff. So whenever you can, unrefined is going to be better. But when it's unrefined, it's also lower smoke point. So I do have on our website, we have a write-up at chefmarshallo'brien.com. If you go there in the search, maybe Jonna can find it. We should have a write-up on oils, and if you'd like more information, why don't you give us your, send us a little private message saying, please send it to me, or we can find it and pop it in there. But I'd be happy to share that with you. Really helpful stuff. Speaking of really helpful stuff for your sleep, everybody, greens, dark leafy greens, whether it's, I'm squeezing the kale here, okay? Whether it's kale, spinach, romaine lettuce, whether it's arugula, there's a bunch of cooking greens like collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens. I'm not ready for that. I got excited about that. What's significant about dark leafy greens is it's high in magnesium. And magnesium is a natural muscle relaxer. And that muscle relaxer is going to help calm your nervous system. The magnesium will help calm your nervous system as well. And you need that when you are when you're sleeping, because it's going to help you sleep better as a result. So if you can get magnesium-rich foods in your life, awesome. If you need more magnesium, magnesium is actually, as I understand, it's one of the top leading nutrient deficiencies Americans have right now. We're not getting enough magnesium. Whenever you can, get it through food, but you can also get it, like there's topical cream that have magnesium, there's powder magnesium that you can put in water, and you can drink it like that, which we do, but we also have some topical stuff. But get magnesium-rich foods, dark leafy greens, broccoli is another magnesium-rich food, avocados, rich magnesium, dark chocolate is rich in magnesium. I'm gonna grab a fork here. Another food that I want you to think about, so we're talking kind of big picture, and then we're getting specific to help you with your sleep. I was saying blood sugar, keeping your blood sugar stable by having good protein. Go plant-based protein, tofu, soy, tempeh, miso, quinoa, lentils. I got the pinto beans in this recipe. That works great. But it's also high in fiber as well, and that fiber will help slow the absorption of the naturally occurring sugars in the food that when it metabolizes, helps slow the absorption into your bloodstream. Meaning, when you eat fiber or protein or fat, it will slow the sugar that goes into your bloodstream to help keep your blood sugar stable, folks. Can't emphasize this enough. If your blood sugar is stable, you're going to sleep better. If your blood sugar is a mess, your sleep's going to be a mess. You already got your profession creating challenges for your sleep. So don't put your second foot in the hole, if you will, just because you're putting the wrong things in your mouth, all right? With the beans here, you don't have to do this, but I am mashing up some of the beans because then it's going to make sort of like a little slight thick sauce. And I'm just mashing up some of these beans. Another thing that I want you to be aware of, folks, you need to have B-rich vitamins. That B-rich vitamins are going to help your cell membranes recover and repair. You can get, there's B-rich vitamins like B6, 12. There's all sorts of them, and they're in pretty much every food, especially yogurt and milk and in seafood and in mushrooms. So make sure you're getting B-rich vitamins into your world. It's going to make a big difference with your sleep. I'm going to add the beans here. Mixing this up. Questions, comments, thoughts? Questions, comments, and thoughts?
Question for melatonin. And
yes.
Anthony said also I pop melatonin like they're Skittles.
Can
probably.
You speak up because this is so loud. I'm like sizzling
okay.
the heck out of everything.
All right.
And I'm out of. I got so excited. I was on the right track with the greens, and then I stopped using the greens and add the greens and then the beans. But you know what? That's okay.
Melatonin.
Melatonin. Okay. Here's my suggestions on melatonin because I used to use melatonin. My experience, and there are other people that will confirm this, that melatonin can be habit forming. I went through it. I relied on it too much. I wasn't addressing the root issues for my sleep challenges, which was stress, too much caffeine, lack of consistency. So melatonin can be okay, but you got to be careful. I don't know a lot of people that have figured, just find that balance. I would suggest to use magnesium before going to melatonin. And valerian root is another one of those. So your brain produces melatonin, but if your hormones are out of whack or if you're on constant screens at night when you should be sleeping, the blue light will affect the hormones that are, basically keeping you awake and suppressing the melatonin release. So think about that for a second. Every hour that you are on a screen at night when you're supposed to be sleeping and your body has this whole circadian rhythm thing, every hour that you're on a screen, it will delay the release of melatonin by 30 minutes. So you watch a couple hours or 3 hours or whatever, well, you've lost time. And actually, that's a conservative statistic. I think it's even more than that delays. So your body naturally produces melatonin, but if your body's a mess, you're not going to have it. So I kind of went a little bit of like this with that answer. I hope that was helpful. Would you let me know? Put in a couple cups. We're going to put 6 cups of kale in here. Again, you want to use spinach. It'll cook in half the time. Okay, just doing some coarse chopping. Greens are a superfood for you, folks, from a mental cognition standpoint, from an inflammation standpoint, from a sleep standpoint. So make sure that you're doing that. You also might need to adjust if you find yourself waking up when you do have a normal sleeping, on days off and things like that. If you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night because you're hungry, I am a big proponent of doing intermittent fasting, and I do that when, starting with when I go to bed, or, I take advantage of that. But if you're constantly waking up in the, middle of the night or middle of the day when you're supposed to be sleeping or whenever you sleep, you might need to get more food in your system or have a light snack before you go to bed. So, depending on what's going on with that. So it's just something to keep in mind there. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Well, you kind of answered.
Did I answer
what
that?
are your thoughts on a protein shake right before bed? Like casein? Is that casein? I don't know.
Like what?
Casein? I don't know how to.
The word I can't. Oh, casein, like casein shake. So casein, as I understand, is found in dairy products. I think that if your body handles dairy, you got to listen to your body at the end of the day, folks. 25% of Americans have a dairy sensitivity, and 25% of Americans also have a gluten sensitivity. So you might be able to handle dairy products, no problem. But casein is one of those, can be an inflammatory, it can be an inflammatory food for people. So you want to pay attention to your body on that. Hope I answered your question. But I think having a protein shake is fine. It's a supplement. To me, it's not a meal. So if you're having it as a supplement, cool. If you're doing it as a meal, you might want to think about other food sources. Speaking of other food sources here, I'm going to chop up these tomatoes. And if you want to use canned diced tomatoes instead, certainly go for it. If you want to use cherry tomatoes, grape tomatoes, that's fine on the fresh side. But I'm letting the knife do the work. I talked the why, the how, the what, and I'm trying to show you how to make these easy for yourself and incorporate the skills. Practice the knife skills. I think I asked this in the last session. You know, I asked you to rate your knife skills 1 to 4. Are you a master knifesman at a 4, or are you, I don't know how to hold a knife at a 1? Where are you, folks? 1 to 4. Suck or awesome? 1 to 4. Where are you at? Let me know. Anthony, 3s. Well, okay. Jory, appreciate your honesty, man. That's awesome. Sherry, you're at a 2. I appreciate your honesty. Dressing a deer, 3-8. Whatever it takes. I get that. I like that. Good. We got being honest. That's good. Well, my skills were okay, and then I practiced, obviously, and it got easy. So here's what I want you to do. Oh, you can't do the 3-point jump. All right, fair enough. What I want you to do is I want you to take 1 minute a day. 1 minute and just practice letting the knife do the work. So I'm letting the knife, what's that? Oh, move that. Just let the knife do the work. Rock the knife. So I hold it. I have my knuckles as a guide, as you can see here. This is, we just introduced camera 2 in webinars, so this is kind of exciting. But I'm letting the knife, rocking the knife back and forth. You can see how I do that? Just let the knife do the work. I never take it off. I'm not doing this. I'm just doing this. Wouldn't it be crazy if I whacked my hand? Oh my God, it'd be nuts. But no, I won't do that. All right, let the knife do the work. I want you to practice that. 1 day, 1 minute a day, 7 days in a row, 7 minutes a week, folks. Okay? And I'm telling you right now, this is actually a lot easier when you make this and you're not presenting at the same time and trying to share all this information. You know, just have things prepped in advance. The greens are just going to wilt down. If you're using the kale, obviously, like, you know, if you use spinach, any kind, you want to use frozen greens, that's totally fine. You're not going to put romaine lettuce in here. It's going to taste kind of gross, okay? Because romaine lettuce is not good cooked, but these greens are. So focus on those magnesium-rich foods, guys. I want you to do that. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of some green. If you haven't noticed, I kind of do my recipes out of order, but at the end of the day, it still turns out pretty awesome. I'm going to add some broth, and I'm going to let this simmer now. Just let that simmer. It's really important that you just, you know, don't rush it. Take your time. This would be a great recipe that you could make in advance. So have it be, you know, you can make it in advance and just heat it up kind of thing. So depending on what your work schedule is right now, you know, you cook on the weekends and then you just have stuff that you can heat and eat. This would be one of those things you could do that. And I'm going to do just that.
What broth did you use?
I used a vegetable broth. You could use chicken broth. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the challenges when it comes to getting good sleep, we talked about blood sugar. We talked about food component, you know, specific foods that can help, you know, keeping your blood sugar stable, avoiding caffeine. Processed foods like you know, there's a lot of packaged foods, convenience foods. You know, I don't know if you pack your meals for your, you know, during your shifts or, you know, how you eat when you're on call. Having said that, if you're relying on takeout a lot, those are gonna definitely spike your blood sugar. They're gonna mess with the hormones that regulate your sleep. They're gonna affect your mental cognition. Even more importantly, and more directly, they're going to spike the cortisol levels in your system, thus affecting inflammation in the body. Now, I'm just curious, how many of you wake up stiff and sore? Anyone wake up stiff and sore? You know, if I don't eat right and I don't take care of myself, I'm a wreck in the morning. So food will play a huge role on how your body feels in the morning. And especially if you're not getting rejuvenating sleep, it's just obviously it's more challenging. But you can offset that by cooking for yourself, having more nourished, focused meals. By the way, if you want to have more control in your kitchen and you want help with the meal planning stuff, grab my Smart Nutrition Cookbook and Meal Planner. It's a steal of a deal. Get it off our website, chefmarshallobrien.com/shop. Got an e-version and we got a hard copy of it. Over 70 recipes, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, slow cooker, multi-cooker, teach you how to meal plan, all that stuff helps you set your kitchen up for success. But the point is, going back to, the vegetable broth, the broth that someone was asking. Watch the sodium content, watch the preservatives that are in there, because there's a lot of garbage in those packaged foods, and they're gonna mess with your sleep, and they're gonna mess with your cortisol levels and your inflammation levels, and you don't want that to happen. All right, I'm all amped up over here. I haven't had caffeine in a couple hours, at least since I didn't have caffeine since I think 1 o'clock. So I did good today, but I am pretty cranked up right now. So, questions, comments.
Okay.
What do you think?
Let's see.
Is this all making sense? Is this helping you? I want to know if this is helping you. Please let us know. Let MnFIRE know so that we can keep bringing value. If you feel like this is not helping you, I also want to know that so that I can do a better job, because I just want to bring value and make life easier. I certainly don't want to be a distraction, or I don't want to waste your time. Yes.
Okay. What should we watch more, sugar or salt intake? What is an acceptable level of sodium intake when we incorporate daily exercise and on-call activities? Whey protein versus plant-based protein.
Can I start with one question?
Nope.
All right. Good question. I actually did my last Fox 9 segment. I talked about the 2 things to get out of your life in 2021, and it was excess sodium and excess sugar. Having said that, sodium really isn't that big of a problem if you're cooking from scratch. If you're relying on drive-through and you're eating out of the gas station, if that's your main food sources, then sodium's a big problem. Sodium can, cause hypertension, dehydrates you. Chronic dehydration is a big problem, from the headaches, but if you're cooking from scratch and you're eating, making your own meals, sodium, no issue. The sugar piece is the one you really want. If you were to pick one, get sugar out of your life. Excess added sugar. I'm not talking an apple, banana, a pear. I'm talking the sugar in a decaf mocha that I used to drink all the time when I had Caribou Coffee as our office 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago now. I'm talking the sugar in the Skittles, the sugar in over 80% of the packaged foods that we have access to, folks. That's the thing that you've got to really get a rein in. Why, you might be asking, why sugar is such a big deal? Sugar is the #1 inflammation-causing food you can consume. You have a super physical job, a super high-stress job, and given that your sleep is inconsistent, when you have too much sugar in your system, you're going to wake up more swollen, stiff, sore, more inflamed. It's going to affect, inflammation is a vague term, but that can show up. Sugar will hammer on your digestive system, suppressing your immune system as a result, because over 70% of your immune system is in your digestive tract. So you got to get sugar. Sugar spikes your blood sugar, obviously, then crashes you, affects your sleep over time. So anyways, I'm kind of getting, I'm in a zone here, but you get my point. Then the other question was, there was something about protein.
Yes, 1 second, I have to go.
I hope I answered your question. Let me know.
Whey protein versus plant-based protein, which is preferred.
It really comes down to what works for your body. And that's there's people that are going to say, you have to be vegan, you have to be vegetarian, you have to be nose to tail, you have to be carnivore, you have to be keto, you have to be pescatarian, omnivore, whatever. What works for you may or may not work for Justin or Jim or for John or for me or for George or for Dee Dee. So you figure out what works for you. And if you truly feel, you don't feel bloated, you don't feel lethargic, you're not getting headaches from it, you're feeling refreshed in the morning, you're sleeping good, then follow that pathway. And so with the protein thing, it just comes down to, what's your preference. I have a sensitivity to certain combinations of vegetables. If I have just beans, I'm cool. But if I eat beans with broccoli or beans with a lot of greens, unfortunately, it affects me and I don't do well. So you figure out what works for your body and then move forward in that direction. But that's a great question, because protein shakes are an easy, supplemental solution. Just make sure it's working for you, not against you.
Next one.
Yes.
I eat pretty clean, but when we are up at night, I get hungry and I usually crave sweets.
Yep.
And I'm not a sweets person. Foods to eat to help with that.
I think first of all is you recognize you're where you're at and you're human. For me, I'm a savory person. Because I was stressed out this week, And if there's potato chips, like there's some sitting right over there, I could eat that whole thing in 5 seconds, and it would satisfy that crave because of that stress response, but I'd feel miserable for a day. Having said that, you're aware of how you feel, of what you're craving when you're in that situation. Number 2, what I would do is really focus on making sure that you don't have access to those sweet things. So have things that are ready to go that you can eat that are going to be more nourishing foods. And, it really kind of comes down to, oh, did we lose somebody? Is that us? Are we here? Our camera just, what happened?
I don't know.
Can you guys see us? Our camera.
No, we can't see you.
Okay, I don't know what happened. Hold on. The camera just died on us. Oh my gosh. Hold on a second. Working on it.
Should have fed it more greens.
What was that?
It needed more greens.
Yeah, I guess. 1 second. I don't know what happened. Forgive me.
Oh, is that unplugged right there? But
No,
everything
you're
was plugged. Oh, you are
Now
back.
you're back. Now
We're
you're back.
I'm back.
You're back.
Okay. That is, will you make a note that I need to let Gabriel and Alex know that
And
happened?
we're actually Wi-Fi. Should
What's
I turn
that?
the Wi-Fi off?
Turn the okay. I don't know what happened, guys. My apologies for that. Let's see, where was I? I was at about
Sweets.
the evening sweet craving stuff. Another thing is that you said you eat clean and that you're not a sweets person, but then you're craving it after a run, after a call. My guess is you're put in a high stress situation, and that cortisol spike that gets you in that fight and focus mode. Now that response is to satisfy with the sweet. So you got to replace that food. I can't make that decision for you, but having a plan, maybe it's,
I like almonds.
I mean,
or
yeah, so it
apricots,
could be-
dry
It
apricots,
could be, you want something sweet, but that's not going to mess with you too bad. It should be-
figs, dry figs.
That's a really high sugar, though.
Or just
and at
one.
that time of the night, probably not. Maybe just a fresh piece of fruit, with some peanut butter or other nut butter. That would be my suggestion. Or maybe you do a piece of toast with some butter on it. Go light, but focus on fat and protein if possible, because you don't want to have your blood sugar spiky when you're trying to go to bed. I hope that helps. If you don't mind, I would like to follow up on that, actually. If you would email or make a, is there a way I can contact you and I can give you some more thought on that, because I feel I didn't really give you a good answer. All right, we've got about 6 minutes left, plenty of time. Thanks to TV Magic, well, it's not even TV Magic, the dish is done. They're tender. We got that light sauce as I was talking about.
Question.
Yeah.
Can we use other proteins in place of chicken, shrimp, tofu, fish?
Absolutely. Yeah, use what you want to use. Just the key is you got to have that combination of good protein, whether it's animal or plant-based, along with the slow carbs and the healthy fats. Now, in this recipe, we're more good carb and protein focused because we had a little fat from the olive oil and there's some fat from the chicken, but we're really just focusing on the olive oil. So it's kind of light, on that spot, but definitely switch it up. You could, do this. If you were going to use shrimp, for example, or fish, and you were going to do it in a one-pan dish, you would do the vegetables and all that, and then add the fish at the very end because your fish is going to cook like that. So great suggestion. This looks awesome. John is going to pull up the, you can see here. Oh, you know what? Now that we got camera 2, let's show them how awesome that looks.
That is true.
We're going to show you so you can see it. Boom, right there. How's that? Look at that. Does that look good? Does that look tasty?
Home delivery.
There we go, home delivery. Awesome.
Just through the camera.
All right. Yep, so we got that. John, enjoy. It's going to be hot, obviously, so you want to be careful on that. I have talked my face off to you all. I hope this was helpful. I kind of want to recap again. I've really hammered on the blood sugar, focusing caffeine with that 12-hour buffer. The sugar patrol, really control your sugar intake. If not, just cutting out all added sugar would be really helpful for you. Alcohol is one that I mentioned initially in the PowerPoint. Here's the thing with alcohol. If you have if you have an 8-ounce glass for women once a night of wine, no problem. If you have 2 8-ounce glasses of wine for men, no problem. But I don't know how many people have an 8-ounce glass of wine, for that matter, because wine glasses aren't 8, they're more than 8 ounce. But the point is, and I know they don't, anyways, the point is, alcohol can be okay if you have a little bit. The problem is if you have too much, if you're having it all the time too much, it will actually perpetuate the cortisol. It'll affect the neurotransmitters that help provide calm moods, and it's going to affect, again, the hormones that regulate your sleep. They're all connected. It's just like if you're not adequately hydrated, like we talked about in the second session, that will affect your sleep. So really watch the alcohol. Have a little bit at night, okay, relaxes you, but too much is going to, you might think you're sleeping hard, but you're not getting the restorative sleep, and now you're setting yourself up. You could be a liability on the job the next day. Things can happen. Your mental clarity is just slightly off because your sleep was affected. Things can happen. So really got to pay attention. Also, when it comes down to the beverage side, the monster drinks, super high in caffeine, really hard on your heart, on your circulatory system. You got to, I do not recommend those. Just get those out of your life. It's all about baby steps, folks. All the stuff that I'm providing you in these classes, if you can do one thing that's positive that you weren't doing yesterday, that's progress. So maybe it's you've got a new knife, or you got a new pan. Maybe you got some containers or some kind of pack that you can now bring meals and snacks with you on your shifts, depending on what kind of role. Or maybe if you're a career firefighter, you're getting more nutritious, helpful choices in the station for your shift. If you're volunteer on call, you're planning your meals in advance. So if you've got that situation and now you're craving something at night, you've got a snack to support you on it. Handful of almonds, like you said. I like yogurt, actually. I'll do yogurt with a little bit of frozen fruit in there and a little bit of honey. That's nice, tides me over. Don't beat yourself up if you don't figure it out right away, or don't give yourself a hard time if you end up getting pizza. Life happens, I get it. Now, pizza would not be a helpful choice after a big event, but I highly recommend not doing it. But, life happens, and, just learn and move forward, and don't beat yourself up on it. All right, questions, comments, thoughts. We've got
just want to give
3 minutes.
Okay,
Yes.
Anthony says, since I started meal prepping, I have found out that it is easier to wake up and get moving. Also, drinking super greens has seemed to help a lot.
That's awesome. I want to comment. I like the super green thing. I don't know specifically which ones you're having. I like that. On the meal prep stuff, what's really nice about that is, let's say, I'm sure most of you, at least my uncle did this, and my buddy up in Duluth did this, where they had a duffel bag ready with all their gear for their shift. If you have a bag ready with stuff that you can change or whatever ahead of time, that's great. But you could do that, to your point that was just talking about meal plan and super greens. Having a breakfast set up, maybe you have a little thing of some oatmeal with some chopped nuts and some fruit, and it's got some honey or maple syrup, and it's stuck in the fridge. Or you got a little container of hard-boiled eggs ready to go. Or you've got some kind of sandwich. Here's the deal. Breakfast, the typical American breakfast, waffles, pancakes, and all that kind of stuff, that was a fabricated invention, beautiful business approach to make a lot of crap load of money by food companies back in turn of the 1900th century. But the problem is it really messes up your metabolism, your blood sugar, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to have typical conventional breakfast. And just want to make that point. More thoughts, more comments.
George wants to know how many on the session have attended previous sessions.
Well, yeah, that's a good question, George. I'm really curious, because if you have been attending these sessions, you'll see commonalities that support the big, broad picture. If I eat like garbage, I can't exercise my way out of a bad diet. It doesn't matter how much I work out to get buff and to be safe on the job and to be strong and fit. If I'm not working out, well, I'm a liability for my buddy, whoever I'm on call with. I'm a liability to my family, because the whole MnFIRE thing, cardiac cancer, emotional health. So you got it. And then if I don't hydrate right, and then there's a big event, and my body core temperature fluctuates just a couple degrees, my whole life is affected from then on out. If I don't get good sleep, obviously we talked about that tonight. So they're all connected. They're all connected. Anthony, appreciate you attending tonight for the first one. That's awesome. And Eric appreciate you being here for the first time too. And Brian as well. Awesome. Well, I'm squinting because I'm trying to see the comments, but see, I can't read. I need glasses. So maybe I need to get glasses. I probably look funny when I keep doing that. All right. Any other questions? George, you want to give parting goodbyes? Anything?
Parting shots?
Yes. Thank
Parting
you.
shots or?
Parting shots?
No,
not
hey,
parting-
thanks everybody. I think tonight's a record turnout. We had, I think at one point about 40 people on the call, so this is great. If you have suggestions for us on ways to improve this, we'd love to hear it. We'll get this posted up on our MnFIRE website in the next week or so. And don't forget, we have our 5th and at least final in these first 5 sessions session with Marshall in March. So just in time for March Madness, maybe some suggestions for cooking for March Madness. So anyway, again, I'm not Marshall's marketing guy. Now you all
it's
know
not.
that. So thanks a million to Marshall, to everybody that made this happen. Love the knife cam. That's great. And thanks for everybody that came and watched tonight, because that's why we're doing it.
Thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing you again. If you got any questions, you need any help or anything, please contact us. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media channels, chefmarshallobrien.com. We're here to help you. Have a great night. Be safe, everybody. I hope to see you very soon. Connect with you soon.
Let me get this one.
Oh, we got to grab one thing before.
Oh.
Get quick before they hang up. Control C. All right. Take care, everybody.
No, I'm just gonna keep
See you
going.
later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marshall.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.